This is the voice of the Report of the Week, signing on. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone listening. This is VORW, the voice of the Report of the Week, signing on for another program. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being here. Show number 141. I figured this is probably going to be up Thursday. Wednesday or Thursday, that's when I figured this program is going to get up at. But whenever it gets up, hope you're doing well. Hope everything for you is going well. Really, that's what I have to say there. I hope everything is just, it's going well. And I hope you're well. One thing that I've found recently by doing these VORW shows, on a more regular basis, is that I really have a shortage of things to talk about. I sit down here, I fill up a good cup of water, turn on the computer, get, the microphone and recorder all set up, charged up, clear it of memory so I can talk for a while. And I start recording and I have nothing to talk about. The letters, of course, are something to talk about, but I usually like to make the program, a 2-hour show. And I like to fill the first hour with talk of my own, and have the second hour mostly to be letters and the topics pertinent thereto, So with that being said, that's one of the drawbacks, I'd say, of recording frequently. I sit before the show sometimes and I think, well, what can I talk about? Nothing. I have nothing to talk about. And I found that problem to be increasingly common. Now, usually when I start recording, after about 5 or 10 minutes of killing time, then a topic will come to me, and then another, and then I'll be able to fill an hour. But if you're interested, if you want to write into the show for next week, and you have a suggestion for a topic to talk about, they are greatly appreciated. Appreciated. Now, I don't find myself having this problem with the radio show, because I do the radio show too. Because already I have the music to play, and I can talk about the music, and the first 10 minutes I can talk about radio-related stuff, and it's just different. So I don't ever find myself having that problem with that, but with the YouTube one, more often than not, I'll find myself at a shortage of talking material, especially at the beginning. Sometimes, like last week, I went in and talked about, the beginnings of the channel in some way. Or not the beginnings, but, a few years ago, talked about that, how it was. And, yeah, that's an easy supply of stuff to talk about, but eventually there's only so many, memories I can dredge up about that, that eventually, after a few sessions, it had become rather, repetitive. Plus, for next week's show, I'm going to talk about the channel a bit there, because it's going to be the 6-year anniversary of the Report of the Week. This channel will have been around for 6 years now. 6 years, now over, half a decade, of course, but I want to save all the talk about the channel in its early days for then, because February 20th as I said, marks the anniversary. So we'll save that for then, have a little special program or something about that. So in the meantime, I mean, what do we got? I can talk about the channel, recent uploads. We have that. But that I save for later. I try to save that for the end of my spiel. I could always tell. If there's something I need to talk about, I could always elaborate on that, give a little backstory with some of the reviews, etc. Can talk about those, but I like to save those for later. We already mentioned the letters. That's already for the second half of the program. Shortwave and the radio show, that's always included, but again, that's towards the end of my spiel. See, it always goes in the format where I start off the program with miscellaneous topics, then I move on to talking about radio, shortwave, and the radio show that I do. Then I talk about recent uploads and the channel, and then I talk about letters. I have it all planned out, and I could easily talk about all that, but it's this beginning part where I would talk about other things that is, again, it ends up more times than not as of late. I just draw a blank every time. Well, heck, let's look at anything happened lately in terms of, let's see. What is there? I have a little story I could tell, but I want to save that for later, too. So there's that. News? Current events? Well, it's also politicized now. You can't really talk about that anymore without having someone fighting over it, and I don't like that. I don't like all the conflict and confrontation that comes along with that. Well, there's PewDiePie. He's in the news. I'm sure we're all familiar with him. Good old PewDiePie, right? International superstar on YouTube. He got his contract with Maker Studios, which is a sect of Disney. They cut ties with them over some anti-Semitic posts. They dropped him. Got dropped. And it makes sense. Disney, I'm not surprised in the least that they had a deal with him to begin with. They're very greedy. Disney is. They just want money. But at the same time, they like to keep things PG. And with the good old Pewds, having some pictures up saying, death to all, so-and-so, and having a picture of a swastika up, and, make America great again cap and whatnot. I guess it was just too much for Disney to handle, and they dropped him. But I don't think that'll really hurt him. He'll just pick up the next highest bidder to be his next network, and nothing will change. He'll get the new boss just exactly the same as the old boss, as the saying goes. So no big change there. But it made the news, oh my gosh, everyone's talking about it now. You hear that they dropped him like that? I've never seen anything like that in my life. Wow, that's so crazy. And that's in the news. And I mean, that's it, really. That's it. Oh, speaking of Disney and Disneyland in California, there was a fire there in the parking structure. Eight cars burned, 7 people injured due to looks like an accident. Well, I have nothing else to talk about, so we're just going to move along with things, and then if any other ideas come to me, we'll go from there. Let's talk about the channel, recent uploads, then we'll talk about radio, the radio show. Then if any topics have come to me in that time frame, we'll go back to those, and then we'll just jump to letters, okay? Sounds good to you? Sounds good to me, so let's get on with this, shall we? And let's make sure we're recording, that's always important. Indeed we are. On February 8th, 2017, I did a review for Burger King's jalapeno chicken fries. And they were fair. They were fair. You know, I remember the chicken fries from Burger King. They came back in 2014 first. And they made a big deal out of them. You know, they said, the chicken fries are back. You know, the chicken fries, they're back. And it was made such a big deal of because it was one of those items that a lot of people liked. A lot of people were big fans of them. And to have these chicken fries coming back was, as I said, a very big deal. So, of course, a lot of hype, a lot of media attention. And I reviewed them at the time, and they were good. They were good. And then they stayed. They kept them on the menu because it was one of those items that I guess is just such a hot seller in the long run that they decided to keep them on the menu. It wasn't just one of those, you know, temporary items where they'll put it on the menu for 2 weeks and take it off. And then 8 months later, they'll put it on for 2 weeks again and take it back off. It was an item that was a bit more significant than that, in terms of how it is. But Burger King, they're pretty smart, business-wise. In terms of how the food actually tastes, it's very debatable. Because I have problems with Burger King. But business-wise, I mean, they know how to make money. They do. Chicken fries. I'm looking that up, see what renditions of it they released. But as I was saying, they're pretty smart in terms of making money. Because that's their objective. They want to make money, and lots of it. So they released the chicken fries, and they did very, very well, exceptionally well. They thought, well, wow, that's great. How about we release some different flavors of chicken fries whilst keeping the regular ones on the menu? Well, sure enough, that's what they did. So, in 2015, that's when they really started doing that again. They released the fiery chicken fries, which were their standard chicken fries, and they had a little bit of a spicy powder on them. And they're supposed to be, you know, spicy chicken fries. They had that going parallel with the standard chicken fries. Except this was a temporary release. They had that, then they got rid of it. More money for them, you know. Then in November of 2015, they released the buffalo chicken fries, which really, they weren't much different than the fiery chicken fries. Simply a different rendition thereof in order to make more money. So they had that there, then they took that off. Then in February 2016, they released the jalapeno chicken fries. Now that must have been a big hit. I figure it had to have been. Because they had that February 2016. They had it. They removed it. And then they just recently brought it back, February of 2017. So that must have been a big seller. Because you haven't seen any of the other ones back yet. And I say yet. That's an important word to use there because you just don't know. But that seems to have been the biggest seller, perhaps. They also released the chicken fries rings when they found, I guess there's enough spicy stuff we can do with it. I guess let's try something else. So let's get the chicken fries and cut them into a circle. So they did that. And I presume that was fairly successful. Anything really, it seems, in the chicken fries franchise. It seems to have done well. And then, of course, recently, they brought back, of course, as I said, the jalapeno chicken fries, which were reviewed and received well. Personally, for me, if I ever go to Burger King, it's not for the burgers, but it's for the chicken fries. That's the one thing, it seems, that they can still do fairly well, is those chicken fries. The standard ones, I mean. Jalapeno ones are okay, but the standard ones, just to me, seemed to have been, the best. And still are. My favorite item from Burger King ever. It's one that's gone. And isn't that a sad coincidence? My favorite thing that they ever had is gone, and it's been gone for years. And I was reading, and I was shocked to see it here. I was reading about failed fast food items, and apparently this is one of them. And I kind of, out loud, I said, what? This is considered a failure? I thought that was shameful, because if that's true, I'm never going to see it again. And that's disappointing. But do you remember, this was about a decade ago. Burger King released those little sliders. You remember that at all? I don't know, do you? They released these little pull-apart sliders. They would come in a 4-pack. That'd be the 4 little sliders kind of attached together, and you would pull them apart, and you could add ketchup to them. Those things were great. I loved those things. And to find that nowadays people consider them a failed item, it's a shame. If they would have released those again, I would be all over that, and chances are they would probably be disappointingly bad, but just given how Burger King's quality is nowadays. But still, I wish they would re-release those. Those were great. They really were. February 12th. It was a couple days break. And I'll be honest, these last 2 reviews on the 12th and the 13th that I made, I was a bit worried about the lighting. Because it seems that everyone likes something that's bright, it's got to be bright and cheery and in your face, and it's got to be popping. And I was a bit worried because lately I had been on a 3rd shift night schedule. And I was a bit concerned about the lighting in these 2 videos. I thought it's just going to be too dark, it's not going to go over well. But the 2 videos actually seem to have been well received. And one of those reasons is I had the car very well illuminated. I tried to light the thing up as much as possible. And then I went in the YouTube video editor. And they have a good setting, and I recommend if you're a content creator and you have a dark video and you're just sitting there, you're shaking your head and you're saying, oh my gosh, it's too dark, it's a failure. Don't say that outright. Now, because YouTube has a great feature, I think it's actually in the enhancements section, called Fill Light. And it's at 0, but bring it up to 1, 2, or maybe even 3, and you'll see that it lights up your video very, very nicely, naturally, and it does not give the impression, if you keep it between 1 and 3, it does not give the impression that anything is bleached out in any way. So, I really recommend using that feature. That's what I used for these last 2 night reviews. And instead of making it seem like I'm sitting in this dark chamber, it lights up the scene a lot nicer, and while it's still dark, the things that you need to see, mostly the food, are lit up, satisfactorily. And that being said, on the 12th, I did a review for McDonald's Shamrock Shake. And it wasn't good. It was disappointing, actually. And it was met with mixed opinions. Some people agreed. They said, it tastes like toothpaste nowadays. And other people were saying, no, this thing is the best thing I've ever had. It's excellent. So it was met with some controversy. But the one I had just wasn't good. It just wasn't good. I said in the review that I had consumed these Shamrock shakes in the past. So I wasn't just saying, it's bad and this is the first one I ever tried. I'd had them in the past. Because back around 2009 or so, I loved McDonald's. I would go there every day almost. I really would. I would go there after classes. I would just go there. I would have, what was my favorite item back then? I'd have the Southern style chicken sandwich. That was obviously McDonald's, their way of kind of trying to compete with Chick-fil-A. The Chick-fil-A sandwich. And McDonald's, they couldn't compete with it really, but it was still a good sandwich. I'd also have the Angus burger. And I would also sometimes feast on the ranch BLT sandwich. So no ranch dressing. And all those items are gone now. But I have found myself back at McDonald's at an increasing rate nowadays. Most likely because there's, at least down here, they're everywhere. And they'll sometimes send out some good coupons. So I'll get different things from McDonald's. Now my big hit at a McDonald's is the McDouble. I'll get that all the time, the McDouble. It's a cheap sandwich, but it's good. You get the 2 patties, seasoned. Always seasoned with the salt and pepper, that's great. And you get some mustard and ketchup. And I believe they have the little tiny onions on them too. Pretty sure. Tiny little bit. Yeah. And they have some pickles too. And it's cheap, it's just over $1. And it's a cheap but good sandwich. Cheap but good. So I've been getting those a lot lately. I've also found myself getting the, and I don't know if these are released nationally yet or what, but I found myself getting the Chicken McGriddle lately too, and I get that in the mornings when I wanted, a chicken biscuit, and I couldn't. There wasn't anywhere around that had them, so I would just get the Chicken McGriddle, not because it particularly was good, but just because it was the closest thing to chicken I could get in the morning. So there was that. But anyway, my point is, I had these Shamrock shakes in the past, and they were good. I used to like the milkshakes at McDonald's. I would usually get the vanilla ones. I always wanted to try the strawberry milkshake, but they never had it. Never did they have it. Never had the strawberry one. And the Shamrock Shake, when they would seasonally release it, I would have it, and it was great. Very, very enjoyable. I had it again, and it was not good. And I've read somewhere that they changed the recipe of it from time to time, and they said oftentimes that poses a significant detraction from the flavor. And I agree. One person who was a McDonald's manager, he said to me that it was probably just the location that makes it that screwed it up. But I had it at 2 separate McDonald's. After I did the review, I actually went to another McDonald's in the day after. I tried it again. Didn't review it, just to try it, and it wasn't any better. New McDonald's, new staff. So I don't know. If it comes down to such a great disparity between the people making it, I think that's a problem. Because McDonald's, for a major fast food establishment, should have that synchronicity to the best of their abilities between all locations, where you could be able to get a Big Mac, a burger, the McNuggets, and a Shamrock Shake, and it would essentially be the same at any location. So I think either something needs to be sorted out with that, or there's just an issue with the ingredients. But the one I had, at least, at two separate locales now, it was not good. That's a shame, but you shrug your hands and you say, hey, maybe next year, right? Maybe the 2018 Shamrock Shake will be a better one. Finally, for good old Valentine's Day, the day which apparently has to remind everyone that you got to show your love for someone, and that you can't just do that on any other day of the year, but you need a certain day to express that. And you need to go out and spend your money and buy something on this specific day. It's concepts like that sometimes irk me a little bit. You figure, I don't think there needs to be a special day. That, okay, this is when you tell someone that you love them and you buy stuff for them. You shouldn't do it on any other day but this one. I figure if someone means something to you, you can just go out and do that any day. You can make any day you want to, a Valentine's Day. But that's how holidays work, and I always find their concepts rather strange at times. But anyways, for Valentine's Day, Pizza Hut released their heart-shaped Valentine's Day pizza. And I have a bit of a story to tell you for this one. So I went over to this Pizza Hut, and granted, this was on the 13th, so it was the day before Valentine's Day officially. Right, isn't that the date of it? I don't know. I first found out about this pizza on the food blog, I think it was Grub Grade. It was Grub Grade or Brand Eating. Usually to try to keep on track of the latest new releases from the fast food joints, I either check Grub Grade or I check brandeating.com. They're two good sites, they both provide the latest news, and sometimes I'll see advertisements, or I'll check the restaurant's website and I'll see the new, but I always try to just browse around and find new stuff to review. But I think it was on one of those sites that I went to that I saw this pizza on. And interestingly enough, they turns out that Papa John's released one just like this in a heart shape. As did, pardon me if the name is incorrect, I think it's called Papa Murphy's Pizza. They're the take and bake pizza where they apparently, you go there, they assemble the pizza for you, you buy it, and then you bring it home and you bake it yourself. And that's how Papa Murphy's works. But apparently those two places, along with Pizza Hut, are doing the same thing for Valentine's Day, where they have a pizza that's roughly the size of a medium pie, and it is in the shape of a heart, It's supposed to be the ultimate romantic gesture, Hey, you wanted that nice diamond necklace? Well, I got you this pizza that looks like a heart instead, Such a meaningful, lasting gift. It's around $10. And I saw the posts about these, and I thought to myself, well, which one should I review? Papa Murphy's, well, I'd rather review something more generic from there to begin with, because it's an interesting concept. I'd rather pass up on that. Papa John's, well, I just recently reviewed the Ultimate Meats Pizza from them. I'll pass up on that too. But Pizza Hut, I checked the channel, I looked and I thought to myself, I haven't reviewed anything from Pizza Hut lately at all. I looked, I think the last thing I reviewed from it was back in October, September, maybe, even that far back. And I believe it was their grilled cheese stuffed crust pizza. I thought, well, Pizza Hut it is. So I checked their website anyway. Flash forward a few days later. I checked their website. And I saw they had a few offers here. They had, you can get this pizza, the heart-shaped pie. You can get it as a standalone pizza for around $10, which corresponds to around the same price as a large pizza. But, it's a specialty pizza, so it always costs a little bit more. Or you can get it for a couple bucks extra. You can get it with a side. For around $13, you can get just the ultimate romantic experience by getting this pizza and a cookie with it too, or something. That's their way of trying to make even, more cash. I thought to myself, well, I'm not gonna get it with the side. I'm not a big fan of Pizza Hut's desserts to begin with. I had the cookie one once, and it wasn't the best. It was just too sweet, too sugary, and it was just too rich for my liking. And I think sometimes that richness in the desserts can just cause an unpleasant, eating experience. So I said, no, I'm just going to go with the standard pizza. So I selected it, and it only came in the hand-tossed crust style, so I said, well, fine. It's fine. I always, when I go to Pizza Hut, I like to get the stuffed crust pizza or the pan pizza, but I'll settle for the hand-tossed. That's fine. If that's what it comes in, then that's fine. So I went with the hand-tossed. And I got pepperoni, since that's how it's always portrayed in the advertisements, with just pepperoni on it. So I said, okay, pepperoni it is. That's fine then. Place the order, comes out to $10. Fair and square, as expected. So I head over to the Pizza Hut. And we all know there's different types of Pizza Huts. You have I think the two most common ones are the takeout only Pizza Huts, and then the full service dine-in ones. And for the longest time, the only ones that I would really go to, these are just the ones that were most conveniently close, were those full service dine-in ones. So you would just walk in, you'd have to navigate your way around a little bit of what's the word for that thing? Not a podium. You know what I mean? There's a little bit of the stand there where they kind of make you wait for your table. You try to navigate around that. If you're not familiar with it, you try to look for the little counter where you could order. I placed an order for pickup, and that can be a bit confusing, especially if it's crowded for dinner, and they got to worry about taking care of the orders to deliver, and the ones that are eating in restaurant. That could be a bit confusing. So I always prefer the ones that are just a little bit of a, you walk in, it's in a storefront, and they just have the counter there, and it's exclusively to go. And that's what this one was. And they're usually quick, they're speedy. They don't have as many people in there because people are just going in and out, to get their food. They just walk in, they pay, and they're gone, And that's what this one was. So I find that it was in a strip mall. That's how most of them are. They're in a strip mall. And the lighting was okay. It was a little dark. There were some lights built in on the strip mall, kind of illuminating the parking lot, but there weren't any standing lights there, so it was a bit dark, but I was able to see the Pizza Hut itself. I pull in, I go into the Pizza Hut. And it was a pretty quiet night there. I mean, I didn't show up at 2 a.m. or anything. It was night, granted, but it wasn't that late. It was around 9 p.m. or so it wasn't terribly late. It wasn't like I was there at 3:30 a.m. eating this pizza or something. It was around 9 p.m. at night. And I go in. Again, it was fairly empty. The employees are out there, or in the back. They're kind of working on some pizzas. And I sit there for a minute. They had a little TV going, so I was kind of watching the TV, waiting for someone to serve me. And the guy, eventually he comes up. He was in the back, I think, working on getting one of the pizzas set up or something. I don't know. Comes up, and he says, "All right, well, you know, how can I help you?" I say, "All right, well, I'm here to pick up. I just got the heart-shaped pizza with pepperoni on it, and could I get some extra napkins, please, too?" Oh, sure enough, the pizza was made. It was sitting in a little kind of heating device that they have. Pulls the box out and puts it on the counter, gives me some napkins. And the thing that I liked about this Pizza Hut is they opened the box and they showed me the pizza to make sure that I got what I ordered. So it shows me the pizza. I take a look. Looks satisfactory. I got some marinara sauce with the pizza on the side too, and it was in there. And then he stops. He looks at the pizza. Looks like at the marinara sauce cup that I had in the box there. And then he looks at me and he says, he kind of shakes his head a little bit, and he says to me, "You know, you're going to need more sauce than just this one or this pizza. Let me get you some." He gets up. He goes to the back. And he gets me more marinara sauce. And that's the story about a Pizza Hut. And the Pizza Hut heart-shaped Valentine's Day pizza review. So I had a pizza with two cups of marinara sauce on the side. And with a dry crust like that, you needed it. It was needed. It was necessary. And it didn't go to waste. It was utilized. And I didn't really criticize it too much because it was a novelty pizza. It was like a one-off thing. If you wanted something that really tasted exactly the same, get a hand-tossed pizza. It's already pre-cut. This is just something to do as a gesture. I wished it was cut. Even if it was cut in half, that would be nice. But they said it wasn't cut because they didn't want to serve a broken heart, right? So practicality just goes out the door on that one. But that's right, I got two extra cups of marinara sauce out of the kindness of their heart. They just felt so bad for me, apparently, with this dry crust, that they gave me a second cup of marinara sauce. Complimentary was on them. So there was that. I wasted 10 minutes of your time about that. And that wraps up the talk about the reviews at this time. I figure coming up next we're going to talk about the radio show. An update about that. And then we'll get to letters. This is VORW, the voice of the Report of the Week. Alright, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I know it's a different location now that I'm recording in, but I think that's fine. It's not, it's not too noisy, not too loud. We've recorded here many times in the past. I don't see any issues. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk about a few more topics, and then we'll get over to the letters, as I said. I know day by day it gets closer to the 6-year anniversary of the channel, but I'm going to make a belated anniversary VORW to talk about that. So, we'll go from there. We'll go from there. Anyway, up comes the radio segment now, where I talk about radio. I talk about, shortwave radio and the VORW shortwave radio program, and of course, how to listen to the VORW shortwave radio program. Any other happenings in the radio world of radio. And then I kind of say, alright, that's it, I'm done. And I stop the recorder, and then I turn it back on again, and then I read letters, and I respond to letters. So it's a nice process. Very nice process. I like it. So before we get on to the VORW shortwave program, might as well see if anything happened in the world of shortwave. The Voice of America, of course, it's a U.S. government entity, has not received any cuts from Trump yet. We'll have to see how it goes in the future. But so far, so good for the VOA. It's going strong. As a matter of fact, I found a Voice of America frequency that's heard very good in North America. So if you have a radio here and you like to listen, it's during the midday, between the hours of 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. Frequency is 17895. That's 17895. And between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern. And I was listening outside today on my radio, and it was just a very good signal, very strong, clear, and again, just overall good signal. It was miscellaneous news. The first hour was African news. It was a very interesting program, really. Africa is a continent that you don't really hear much about in the news, except when someone kills a lot of people and a lot of people die, and that's it. That's the only time you ever really hear about it, unfortunately. But it's a very populous continent. It has a large population, well over 1 billion people, and growing. And lots of things happen there. And the VOA has a whole hour-long program in which they report on all the happenings in Africa, around the continent there, and then they finish it off with some African music. And it's just a nice program overall. It lets you understand what's going on in another part of the world that, the media here doesn't care about. And then you get some world music to boot. So it's a nice show, good program. And then the second hour, I forget the name of the show, but then this one goes kind of back to the U.S., where it talks about major events in the news that happened in the U.S. So it talked about, of course, what was going on with Flynn, right? How he got terminated, and talked about Donald Trump's press conference. His press conference that he gave a couple days ago. They talked about U.S.-Russia relations, and again, a good program from the VOA. And I highly recommend it. It's again during the midday where there's not a lot on the airwaves over here, just a lot of Spanish stations, religious. But the VOA, good 2-hour block during the midday hours. If you can listen on an online receiver, if you have your own radio, you can, if you're on lunch or whatever, you want to just sit out, listen to something, you can tune to that, get some good news there, whatever. If you're a hobbyist, or if you have some free time, you can hook up a good antenna and just take a listen. But I recommend it. It's something to listen to during the midday hours. And good programming, in my opinion. I hope they keep that frequency, because again, it came in very well over here. Otherwise, on shortwave, let's see. Well, Australia, I feel bad for this guy. I really do. I feel bad for him. And I mean, it's not his fault. In Australia, you know, the ABC, Radio Australia, they terminated their broadcasts, and of course, Senator Nick Xenophon, that's his name, he's introduced some legislation. And you know how long the bureaucratic process takes now, you know. They drag their feet. And this goes for any country, really. It's just how it always is, no matter what political side or whatever. It's always the same, no matter what it, you know, all this legal stuff, it goes at a snail's pace. So the senator in Australia introduced some legislation to try to force the Australian Broadcasting Corporation to bring back the shortwave broadcasts to the Northern Territory and the Pacific. And it's been presented, and then in May they're gonna, you know, do another reading of it and perhaps vote on it, and then a few months after that it's gonna go somewhere else, and then it might get enacted. So I mean, it'll be a good probably 8 to 10 months should this go through before it's even finalized. But still, something's better than nothing. But anyway, while ABC on shortwave was really the only real news station on shortwave in Australia, there's a few other shortwave radio stations in that, you know, in the country there. There's a Christian station, which it's called Reach Beyond Australia. It's located in Western Australia, and they have a couple 100 kilowatt transmitters that they use to beam Christian programming, you know, out to Asia, mostly Asia and the Pacific, but not any news or anything. They can, you know, they can turn to some other stations. It's a religious station there. And then there's this station. It's called Unique Radio. It's run by Aussie Tim. That's what he calls himself. I like the nickname. And I read a little bit of a notice that he gave out in this shortwave group I'm a part of. The Glenn Hauser's shortwave group. I get a little news bulletin every day from him that says what's going on in the world of shortwave. And I couldn't help but feel bad for this guy. I really couldn't. I just felt bad for him. He writes, let's see what he said here. Let me see what he had to say. I'm trying to find this, because I felt bad for him. Give me a minute. I'm not gonna sit here and waste everyone's time looking for it. I'll be back. Here we go. I just felt bad about, you know, trying to look so long for it. Anyway, I can't help but feel bad for this guy. This guy, Tim, in Australia, was able to get a little broadcasting license for his station. It's in New South Wales, Australia. And it's a low-power transmission, mind you. And, you know, and Australia is a big place. You need a good transmitter to reach the country. You need at least a 50 kilowatt, 100 kilowatt transmitter to reach Australia, you know, and get that good audience. And his transmitter was a much smaller one. I mean, it might have only been 1 kilowatt, maybe 500 watts, which is good for, I'd say, regional coverage, you know, for, you know, maybe 100 miles or so. But realistically, to cover a good swath of the continent, you need a higher power transmitter. And this is just what he had to work with, you know. This is just what he had, and I just can't help but, you know, but feel bad for him. He has this one kilowatt transmitter and antenna, and he's been trying to get a little station going over there that, you know, sells airtime, and some groups have bought airtime there, some programs. As a matter of fact, I sent him an email earlier in the day, actually today, with a few questions about it, and I want to see, what his airtime rate is to see. I'm just curious as to, and this goes with what he said, I'll get to that in a minute. I'm just curious, I might conduct a VORW test transmission off of his station. But I feel bad for him, because I guess what he was saying was, sent out this email, and he said, it's, the equipment that I have seems to be working okay, but realistically, I just don't know if there's much of a point to broadcast anymore, because there just aren't any listeners or support to continue on with this. And that's what he said, and I couldn't help but feel bad. And it's not a religious station, it's not a government-funded news station, it's just this guy trying to do what he likes and trying to make a little bit of something by selling, airtime to organizations for his station, and it seems like no one cares or listens to it. I just felt bad for him. I do. He said today he's going to run a test transmission for about 12 hours and see if anyone internationally registers a signal, and then he'll make a decision whether to continue locally. And he said he booked an international relay last year with a stronger signal, which yielded some interest, but also not really enough to reconsider continuing. And he said, I just felt bad for him, really. I sent him an email. I mean, I wasn't gonna. I can't hear his station. I'm nowhere near Australia, but I sent him an email asking him. I said to him, listen, let me know what the fate of your station is, and if you plan on continuing it, give me a rate, and I might buy an hour to see how it's received and what have you. But I just feel bad for him overall, that's all. I wish him the best of luck. If I, won the lottery or something and I had hundreds of millions of dollars to blow, I'd give him a couple thousand, and I'd say, listen, put this money towards getting a good, 10 kilowatt transmitter or so, and a good antenna, so you can beef up coverage of your station. But I have nothing like that to throw around, so it's a shame. That was really what people were talking about. Let's see if there was anything else that happened lately in terms of shortwave news. If you're familiar with the station HAARP, HAARP, you ever hear about that? If you listen to Alex Jones, he might have talked about it every now and then. It's a research project that's run by scientists up in Alaska. It's an extremely high-powered shortwave station. I'm talking with a signal, that's probably, to give a guess, in the megawatts, probably maybe 10 megawatts, You look at it that way. I mean, a good 50,000 watt, 50,000 watt transmitter can broadcast from New Zealand to the US with good signals. This station is 10 million watts. When you look at it that way, it's extremely high powered. Very, very, very high power station. And maybe it's a little lower power than that, I don't know, but it's definitely in the megawatts in terms of power. And it's used for ionospheric research. And if you know about shortwave, the way shortwave signals work is these transmissions are beamed up into the upper atmosphere, called the ionosphere, where the signal reacts with these charged particles high above our heads. And the way it reacts, the signal is able to reflect off of them, like how light can reflect off of a mirror. And it can reflect off of these charged particles in the ionosphere. And bounce back down into another part of the world. That's why you can get a transmitter, say in Florida, and beam a signal all the way from Florida into India by reflecting it off the ionosphere like this mirror, you know. So that's how that works. And we know a lot about it, but of course you could always do further research. So these scientists up there with this HARP installation will sometimes blast these extremely powerful signals into the ionosphere and do research based on their findings. And these scientists are asking for shortwave listener reports for their research. So if you've known of HARP and it interests you and you have a radio of your own, they're actually going to be conducting a few tests in the coming days, and you can actually write to them and they might send you a little souvenir card as a result, and you can, I don't know, brag to all your buddies at school. You'd say, oh, look at this, I got a card from HARP right here. So they're going to be operating from February 19th to the 22nd, roughly after 1800 hours UTC. You can, let's see, probably from 1800 to 630 hours, so for a very long time. They said to check around 2.7 megahertz, that's 2,700 kilohertz. It might seem like a low frequency, but for such a high power transmission, you can check that out. And if you hear something, you might hear some weird tones or who knows what, you can contact the HAARP installation and they might give you something in return. You never know. You might get a little souvenir QSL card or something. If I hear it, I'm going to write to them. It'll be a collectible one, since sometimes a lot of these people talk about them. You could actually own something from them, so I think that's pretty cool, actually. So that's going to be going on soon. Otherwise, I think that's really it. I'm just checking this to see if anything else. Some people were freaking out because it was incorrectly reported that the Vatican Radio would be dropping its English to Africa services in form of digital radio, in favor of digital radio. So people were freaking out. They're saying, "Oh, they're going to be dropping, 20 English frequencies, and it's going to be a terrible decision." Blah blah. But nobody bothered to read the full press release where it said that they're only going to be switching their FM frequency in the Vatican to DAB, and the shortwave frequencies are all going to continue on as per usual in AM mode, no change. But nobody bothered to read that, so instead they misreported it and caused an unnecessary freak out. And that's all I have to report there. The VORW radio program utilizes shortwave frequencies every Thursday and is heard around the world by both you, perhaps, and by many other listeners. I'll give you updates for the last 2 programs. Of course, let's see. Well, there was the 16th, right? Or was it the 15th? When was it on? The 16th. There was the program that was sent out on the 16th. And then there's also the radio program that was sent out on the 9th. The 9th and the 16th. Both of which were received very, very nicely. As a matter of fact, each program gets more feedback emails than the last. The program on the 9th got around 35 reception reports. And this one so far has gotten 42. So that's a new record there. That's great. That's great. And to compare things, you know, number one, you look at the difference with these YouTube programs that I do, you know, the YouTube shows, where you can view, you know, you can view the statistics, you can view the analytics, and you can see how many people watched, you know, maybe between, if there's no notification, maybe 5,000 to 6,000 people. If there is a notification sent out, then maybe 7,000 to 10,000. And despite all those people watching, realistically, I only get maybe 15 or so letters for the program, despite there being, you know, as many as 10,000 people watching. Doesn't mean that all 10,000 are going to write in, that's how many I'm going to get. Oh no, not at all. Instead, I'll get maybe 15 letters. Just because 15 letters were received, it doesn't mean that 15 people wrote in, we know that. Or 15 people listened. So, even with only 40 or so reception reports and letters about the radio show, I think it can be inferred that there's a lot more people than just 40 that are tuned in, so that's a great success there. As a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and tell you all a little story with the shortwave programs. I used to do the radio broadcasts for, you know, from January of 2015 up until July of 2015. I used to broadcast every week on shortwave in that time. Then I stopped. I took a break. I did a few special transmissions in 2016. And then I resumed regular broadcasts on the shortwave in December, late December of 2016. And they've been continuing onward with regularity ever since then. And I want to tell you a little bit of a story about these broadcasts. When I first started the shortwave broadcasts, I would ask for emails and comments and everything, and I wasn't sure how many I would be getting. I really wasn't. I would give out my email address multiple times during the radio program. And again, I wasn't sure. It started out, I wasn't really getting much feedback at all. I would get maybe 1 to 3 emails per radio show I did. And then towards the end, I'd be getting maybe 5 or 6 emails per show. But, you know, no support or anything. So when the funds ran out for the radio show in 2015, I stopped the broadcast. I got a few sad emails, and life went on. And I restarted the programs in 2016, late 2016. And again, I wasn't sure on the feedback. I wasn't sure. I didn't know what to expect. So, the first program aired, and something interesting happened. The first program, I got around 8 or 9 emails. Then on the second, I got around 15. Then the third, I got around 20 emails. And the fourth, I got around 25. And then the fifth, 30. You know, and now I have almost 45, possibly even as many as 50 emails per program. And it's crazy how this show has just grown so much. And I know one of the reasons is because I promote the thing so much in these VORW shows. And I realize that with a radio program like that, you have to advertise it. in order to let people know that it even exists if they're interested in tuning in. But I think it's crazy. I never thought the program would be as well received as it is, this one. I never thought so. I mean, I originally started off this radio revival program, you know what I mean, I revived the VORW show. I started off by just playing my own music and asking for a few requests. I didn't think there'd be any. And now I get so many requests per show, I decided, heck, I'm just going to make it a music request show. That's a lot more fun. You hear so much new music, and so does everyone else, and every listener has the ability to essentially dictate a part of the show with their music requests. They can hear what they want, and that's what I do now with the show. And that format seems to be a big success. I mean, I love getting the emails and seeing people's music requests and being able to play them. And not only do the listeners get to hear new music, but so do I. I get to hear so many songs that I never had heard before or had completely forgotten about. And then during the week after the program had already aired, I'll find myself going back to a few of those songs and replaying them and enjoying them. And I know a few people that wrote in had said the same thing. So it's just crazy how well the show has been received. And for those of you who are VORW shortwave listeners, I have some good news for you. The WBCQ broadcasts will be continuing now at least until early May. And I hope I can say the same for the European broadcasts as well. So, you know, VORW on shortwave is a listener-funded program. It's completely 100% listener-funded. Anything that you contribute to the broadcast goes to keeping it on the air, and to all of you who have supported this broadcast, here you are. You know, this program is going to be here for a while, and I owe it all to you guys. I really do. So thank you to all those of you who've supported it. VORW is going to be here to stick around for a while, so thank you all. Next, a little rundown, a quick rundown on how the last two programs went. The broadcasts to Europe were a great success, especially the recent one. Despite there being a time change for the earlier broadcast, a lot of people got the little memo I sent out and were able to tune into the earlier transmission. And signals there were well received. They were heard across the European continent, received well from Germany to the Netherlands, Austria, Italy. New listeners were writing in to mention that they heard the transmission. Also a first for these VORW broadcasts that had returned. There were a few listeners in Russia that were tuned in. One listener in St. Petersburg wrote in. He said he heard the broadcast, and another listener that was all the way in, I believe it's called Kansk. That's K-A-N-S-K, Russia, and that's, you know, central Russia. That's out there. He was able to pick it up too. Had some people in Romania write in. The broadcast in the afternoon, the signal there is getting better. It was able to be heard in Eastern Europe pretty good, again in Romania, Ukraine, Russia, even in the Middle East a bit. A signal was there. And it hit the UK well also. A few people from there wrote in. So the European broadcast has been a great success, and I hope for that one to continue to serve all our European listeners, as well as our North American listeners that tune in on the web SDR at these times. And the North American service has been going well as well. The signals have been reported good. There was a little bit of interference in last week's broadcast, but that matter has been cleared up, so reception will be much clearer in the coming weeks. And Again, though, there are people that are able to hear the broadcast, with good signals, and people enjoy that they can enjoy being able to hear the broadcast via several ways. They can listen. Yes, they can listen on their radio, but they can also listen in on TuneIn. They can listen to the MP3 stream They can listen on their phone. They can listen on SoundCloud if they missed the initial broadcast, and you could even listen on an online shortwave radio if you don't have a radio of your own and you want to get that analog quality feel. So the broadcasts have just been a great success, and I enjoy making the shows, but really my favorite part is after the show airs, to see what emails come in for the radio program, see where people were listening, and it's just a great way to just even though you can do it online, I think it's a lot more fun, in my opinion, to reach people around the world through radio, and have people actually physically tuned in to your program all across the world. And I think it's really cool to be able to do that. That was a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, very enjoyable. Now, the good old information that if you've been listening to the YouTube shows for the last few months, you've heard this spiel so many times now, but I'm going to keep doing it. There might be new people listening, and they might be curious, and even though there's a video outlining it, of course, this little quick explanation doesn't hurt. If you are interested in listening to the VORW radio broadcast, you can listen via several ways. Of course, you can listen on your shortwave radio. You can listen on SoundCloud, TuneIn, MP3 stream on WBCQ.com. Or you could also listen on an online shortwave radio. So, here you go. If you want to listen to the European transmissions, you can hear the broadcasts on the frequency of 6070 kilohertz, 6070, that's easy to remember. And you can tune in at the time of 8 p.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Eastern, that's 1 p.m. GMT, 6070. You could also tune in at 3 p.m. Eastern, that's 8 p.m. GMT, 6070. You can listen to these broadcasts by simply going to the website channel292.de, right before it airs. Clicking over there on the left, little button says click here to listen on shortwave. Click on that, and it will direct you to an online shortwave radio, already tuned to the frequency, all set up, ready to go. And that's all. That's all you need to do. Just click on that button and you're set. You can listen there. And that especially works good with the 1 p.m. GMT broadcast. Always great signals on that receiver there. For the afternoon one, signals are a little bit more variable. The propagation varies somewhat. I think that's kind of fun. You never know where it's going to hit. But as a result, you might need to check a different receiver, to see, maybe I can pick it up here. So here's how that works. You see this list right here, list published. These are all different online shortwave radios in different locations. There's a bunch in the UK right there, and they're in different locations. Type in any one of those links. I know you might say they look kind of sketchy. I've been on these sites all the time. No virus confirmed. Confirmed. I can confirm it. Review Bra sacrificed the safety of his own computer. And they are all just little shortwave radios you can access online. Harmless little radios. Happy little radios. You can click on or type in any of those links, and it'll direct you. You'll see this page here. You'll hear the radio static. It'll be this kind of blue-like screen there. You see it moving there. In the box that I have circled on the lower right, simply type in 6070, and then click on that button there. It says AM, and you're good to go. It's fun to do, but it can be confusing and a little bit complicated, I understand. Is there any easier way you can listen? Why, yes, there is. The easiest way you can listen is by maybe staying up a little bit. You could listen to the WBCQ broadcast. This is especially good for listeners in North America, where you can tune to the WBCQ broadcast. Here's how you do it. Right before the transmission is to air, 7:55 p.m., right? You just type into Google WBCQ TuneIn. Top link right there that I have circled for you at, TuneIn Radio. You click on that, and automatically the digital audio feed pops up right there. And you are golden. So that you're set. You could also listen by going to WBCQ.com. Listen live, button on the left there. You click on it. Top link right there for $74.90 I have circled. Click on that, and you are good to go too. And again, if you want to listen on an online shortwave radio, this works just like those ones in Europe that I just talked about. Here's the list of the links. You click on it, type it in. Works exactly like how the other ones did. You see that blue screen there? Lower right, you type in the frequency, 7490. Hit the AM button, and you're golden. Now, on these radios, I cannot guarantee good signals. It all depends, but I can say that if things are right, you have a good chance of being able to hear it. Some people do have radios of their own. They say they can hear the signals pretty well, and you can buy a fairly inexpensive radio for under $40. And I think it's a worthy investment. I think it's a good thing to have. You can listen to the VORW show on shortwave. You could also listen to various other international broadcasters. You can get an international perspective on world events, get to learn about other places in the world, listen to different types of music. You can tune in every now and then and keep the radio sitting on a shelf, and if things ever really go south, if there's a natural disaster, conflict, you name it, if there's a zombie apocalypse, you might be thankful that you have a shortwave radio. If other communications are blocked or go down, or you never know. Under $40, and I think it could be a good investment. Now, if you want to get a better radio, that might cost around $80. But again, I think it's a good investment. I mean, the Texan PL380 is a good radio. It's fairly inexpensive. A little pricier, I've heard the Sea Crane Skywave radio is a good one. Of course, my own receiver, the Texan PL660, a great radio. I listen every day on it, and never fails me. As a matter of fact, the PL660 is an incredibly durable piece of technology. I kind of cringe thinking about this, and it's happened, unfortunately. Where by accident I've dropped the radio from probably 4 5 feet in the air onto a concrete floor. And I don't know, it kind of makes me cringe a little bit thinking about this poor radio hitting this concrete floor. And you're familiar with how some pieces of technology react to a drop like that, onto just a very hard surface from that height. They fall and they just shatter, they just smash, and it's a mess, And I hate to say it, but I've accidentally dropped that radio probably 6 or 7 times from that height onto a hard surface by accident. I'm just walking with my hands too full, I knock it over and what have you. And it still functions. As a matter of fact, it never is broken open. It's never failed me. It's an extremely durable piece of technology, so it can fall, it's okay. You could probably drag it out into the woods if you go out a lot. It'll be fine, it'll hold up. It's just a great piece of technology overall. That's my personal recommendation, but I mean, it can cost around $80, and I know not all of us have that money to blow at one time, so I understand. Finally, 2 last announcements, and then we'll get to letters. Announcement number 1, the VORW Radio Program can also be heard now on 5150 kilohertz, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It will occasionally be relayed on 5150 during the daytime hours. I can't guarantee a time, but you can periodically check between 9 a.m. 5 p.m. It's a good station otherwise. I mean, they play good music, good programs. But Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, it'll usually get relayed at least a few times a day. And that transmission is directed to New York City and the tri-state area. New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. Can also be heard in Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, maybe parts of New Hampshire even. It's been picked up as far away as Nevada and Florida, but that's very rare reception, really mostly in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania. If you're in that area, you have a radio, you can try listening to that program, that broadcast. And if you want a good web SDR radio to tune into that one, you can contact me. I can hook you up. But that's purely if you're interested in that. Finally, and then enough about my show, the VORW Radio Program has a mailing list now. It is a low-traffic mailing list, meaning I'm not going to bombard you every week before the broadcast begins saying, hey, I'm going to be live in a few minutes, listen. It's up to you if you want to listen or not. It's voluntary. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm only going to send out emails on a very infrequent basis if there is a major schedule change or any sort of change in the program, meaning if I am going to add a significant broadcast, if I'm going to remove a significant listened to transmission, if the program itself is going to change, if it's going to go on hiatus, if it's going to cancel, whatever. That's when emails will be sent out, Very important ones. So, with that being said, it is a mailing list again. It is sent out so that no one else can see your email, no one else can see that. So if you're interested in getting email updates for the VORW radio show, and you haven't already been grandfathered in because any shortwave listeners that had wrote to me in the past were added to the mailing list, and there was a opt-out option that one could utilize if they don't want to get the emails. But if you want to get added, please send me an email, and obviously inquire that you want to have your email address added to that mailing list. And again, you're not going to get bombarded. You might get one email every month or 2 months or whatever. Very infrequent, but if you're interested in the program and you want to have those service announcements sent to you, of course, just let me know. That's all that I have for you, ladies and gentlemen. Up next are letters. This is VORW, the voice of the Report of the Week. There's actually a bit of a light rain falling right now. So we'll see. It's I guess it's a sun shower, because I see on the horizon here, I see the sun out, but some light rain coming down, so I'm gonna see how bad it gets, and of course if it becomes unmanageable, I mean, it's just rain, there's no thunder or anything. I checked a lightning website and nothing like that, so we'll see. If it gets too much to handle, if it gets too wet, I'll stop and I'll record sometime else, but otherwise we'll just continue on. Nothing wrong with that. It's some nice light rain falling. So our first letter. Hello, John. So great to hear you read my letter on this VORW, even though I know it's not guaranteed, so it always surprises me to hear it on the show. I know you mentioned that you knew the VORW show didn't end up in anyone's subscription box. Is that something you can choose now on YouTube? I look through your comment section often and report so many comments, it's ridiculous. You deserve a medal for being able to deal with the amount of stupidity directed towards you. Also, this reminds me, did you ever receive a silver play button from YouTube when you reached 100k subscribers? Just sending a few pictures and a great song to check out. Well, thank you very much for your pictures, very nice ones, of course, to be featured in this program. And a nice song, too. Thank you for that. It was a Pentatonics song, and they're a good group, you know, a good group. I knew about them back in 2011, then I kind of forgot about them, and thank you for bringing them to my attention again. They are a good group, very talented group. And that is an option that you can have on YouTube now, in terms of the subscribers. You can say, you know, in upload settings, you can now choose, should I send the notification out or not? You can click that box, but once you click it and you publish the video, that's final. You can't go back and change it, obviously. And some people have complained. I still don't know what to do about it, honestly, because every time I would upload a VORW and have the notification come out, I realized it would hurt the channel. I mean, significantly, so I would lose as many as 30 subscribers, and in the long run, views would go down, just because I uploaded something that wasn't a food review. Isn't that something? So I find it saddening that these VORWs hurt the channel so much, and it's sad, but if it means that I can still do these VORWs and not send the notification out, and the people that want to listen to it can check and get it eventually, and people can still get their VORW show, and the channel doesn't end up dying a slow death because of these notifications getting sent out, then that's a good thing. It's a bit of an inconvenience, but if it needs to be done for the future of this channel, then it needs to be done, you know. It's sad. It's sad that it has to come down to that, but I think it's still good that we're still able to produce these VORW shows no matter what. And no, I never got the silver play button. I never even got a notification for it. So I contacted YouTube. I said, do you even make these anymore? And they said, oh yeah, we do. Here you go. So it's allegedly in the mail, and will be in the mail for the next 12 weeks, and then I'll get it. I'll look at it. Maybe make a small little video about it. And I'll shove it in the corner and let it get buried in dust and a pile of papers, and I'll forget about it. None of those accolades ever really, you know, held any significance to me. I forgot about it, honestly. Some people, you know, and everyone has their own definition of everything, and it's fine, but I think to some people the silver play button is a huge thing, but I don't know. To me, it's nothing big, really. It's nice to have, but it's just nothing big. But it's on its way, apparently. It's on its way. Okay. Let's see what our next question is. Okay, here we go. At one point, I had found what you call your fan mail address, but I lost it, so I used Rep Week info. That's fine. This is fine. I was just wondering if there's another address you would rather receive letters on. No, this one's fine. The Rep Week interview one, that's fine. You can send any emails of your liking to this one, no problem about it. I was wondering, he continues, I was wondering your thoughts on making reviews on some popular store-bought meals. And I do realize that makes more sense to stay with the large food chains like Taco Bell, McDonald's, but you know, every now and then if there's a new item to review, maybe you can try one. And one more thing, would you ever think about leaving Florida? If so, then what state or area? Thank you for reading this letter. Makes me happy that you actually read your fan mail, unlike most YouTube channels, even of your channel's size. Look forward to your answers. Sincerely, Nathan. Nathan, thank you for writing. What do you mean by store-bought meals? Like, you know, there's different things that you could consider that. I mean, you could say, going to the supermarket and buying a frozen pizza from DiGiorno, you know, is that a store-bought meal? Or would, say, going to Publix and reviewing a Publix sub from their deli be a store-bought meal? Or would a store-bought meal be like going to the supermarket, getting lettuce, tomato, bacon, bread, making a sandwich out of those ingredients, and then reviewing it? So I'm just curious what the definition there is. I'm just curious. I'm not saying that to be antagonistic. I just want to know more info to potentially use your idea in the future. And in terms of leaving Florida, well, I've only been here a little while. Really my answer to that is anywhere that's cheap. That's it. Anywhere that's cheap. That's it. That's all that matters. I have no particular specifications. I mean, I like the heat. I like the warmth. That's nice. I can't stand the cold. I'm just one of those people, I realize, but if that's something I have to put up with, it's something I have to put up with. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you. Our next comes from Alex. Review Sensei. How are you? I've been quite busy. I started teaching and am currently swamped. Still watching and enjoying your style. The VORWs keep me company during grading. I have a small self-indulgent question for you. As a researcher/educator, I'm consistently confronted with how we, as high up on our ivory tower as we are, how are we able to communicate the science in a way that is both exciting and faithful to accurate findings? The motivation, of course, being that a well-educated population is able to act and organize more intelligently. A happy medium seems quite hard, being a sterile lecture of information and an over-the-top speculative science fiction article. You, as someone who is invested in communication, could possibly shed light on this issue. I would be delighted to hear from the Bra himself. How do we get people to love science? Surf has been amazing here, in between rainstorms. Hopefully work keeps me as a simple observer for now. One day, the ocean and I will reunite. As usual, a sunset for your pleasure. May your joys be many, and may your worries be few. Your friend in California, Alex. Alex, thank you. And thank you for the lovely picture, as always. I always look forward to getting your sunset pictures. You always provide a wonderful one, and this one is on par. It's an excellent picture there. Thank you. Great photograph there. Now, that's a tough question. And part of me thinks that there is almost no way at all to get everyone to like something. And this applies in any level of education. You name it. Elementary school, middle school, high school, college. Independent lectures to anyone like these. Anything. You just can't. There are so many people out there. And when you're talking to a number of people, be it 40, 10,000, 400,000, 4 million, not everyone is going to think alike, and not everyone is going to have that same exact strategy or how their mind functions in order to comprehend the information best. There's going to be some people out there that would love to sit through just a monotonous lecture. There's some people that would love an action-packed, over-exuberant, over-the-top, contemporized lesson. There's some that'd like a mix of the two. There's some that'd like to look at pictures only. There's some that'd like to watch movies only. You name it. And to find a medium that gets to everyone, that's extremely difficult, if even possible. There's always going to be people that just don't get it, that aren't a fan of how it's done, and that needs to be understood, number one. That there's going to be people there that just aren't interested in the message or how you deliver the message, and that's fine. I know it might not be a good feeling to kind of, let a few get away, you can say, but that's just how it has to be sometimes. Perhaps eventually those that aren't a fan of the way you might convey something will find that alternate means in the future and discover it themselves or what have you. So that needs to be mentioned first. We cannot satisfy everyone. It can't happen. And that's one thing that I've realized when it comes to shortwave radio, because that's something that I talk about a lot. I talk about shortwave radio all the time, and I know not everyone that listens is going to be interested in shortwave radio. I know that some people that listen are going to think in the back of their heads he's talking about his stupid radio again. And that's understandable, and that's fine. Because you can think that. Not everyone's going to like it. And we can't expect that to be the case. Not everyone's going to like it. Well, what do I do when I talk about shortwave radio? What I try to do, and this could perhaps go over to science as well, is I try to convey the information in a lecture, but at the same time, I try to explain everything very, very thoroughly. I try to give examples of things that are understandable to everyone. I remember there was one time I was sitting through a lecture where someone was talking about different aspects of chemistry, and they were trying to explain it, what they thought in their minds, that, this is going to get to, the audience of today. They were trying to reference how certain, how certain atoms bond with each other, or whatever it might be. They're trying to compare it to some sort of smartphone app or smartphone game. And to me, and a few other people in the audience, I had no idea what the person was even talking about. They tried to make a reference that they thought would apply to everyone, yet it actually went over several people's head, and it was a useless reference to some people. So when making references, do something very simple that can apply to everything else. Some people might say, well, that's dumbing it down. No, it's not. It's making it understandable to as many people as possible. And sometimes that's the most effective way to convey information, is to make it as understandable as possible so people can get that basic knowledge of it and then move from there. Like how I talked about shortwave signals. You can just say, and these signals, are beamed up into the ionosphere at such and such azimuth using, using a log periodic antenna with, 500 kilowatt radiated power, and it's beamed at, such and such degrees to these coordinates, via the ionosphere, and, such and such sporadic, E propagation and tropospheric ducting. And you could use all these terms and people are going to say, I don't get that. Or you can say these signals are beamed up into the upper atmosphere and they hit these charged particles like a mirror, like how light will reflect off of a mirror. Well, that's an example that a lot of people will understand. They'll think of a mirror, how things get reflected off of it. And you can think about shining a flashlight into a mirror. How that light, if you hit it at an angle, can reflect off of the mirror and bounce somewhere else into the room. Well, people understand that. And that's a way that you can convey this information in a way that, while some people might say it dumbs it down, I personally think it's a way of getting what might be more confusing information out to a lot more people, because you just make it easier to understand. I think sometimes curriculum and whatnot gets in the way of things, and how some administrations expect certain things to be taught a certain way. But I think if all science was used in such simple examples that would apply to everyone, and not just someone that's fanatical about the subject, I think a lot more people would be interested in it. You don't need to make the examples that you use extremely contemporary or hip, because the people that try to do that, more often than not, end up looking like a fool. Something simple, something that almost everyone will understand, and people aren't going to make fun of you over that. They're going to be fine with that. So that's just one strategy to suggest to you there. There's a lot more to it than just that, but that's just one thing to consider. Thank you again, Alex. On to the next. Hi, good evening from the UK. I love your channel and felt like you needed a new channel art layout. I also made you an intro. Not sure the best way to get this to you. Hope you don't mind, but I took the time to make them for you. Hope you like it. All the best from Luke. Luke, thank you. And I think it's nice. I like the background. It's a picture of me sitting there, shirt and tie, with holding the chicken fries box. Behind me is like some nice bookshelves, and up there it says the report of the week, running an empty food review. I like that. I hope you don't mind. The one thing that I'm not a fan of the eyes on me. It's interesting. I'm just not a fan of that, but the style's interesting. That I will say. It's an interesting style. So thank you, Luke. Thank you, Luke. Interesting style. And thank you. No matter what, though, I always realize people take the time to do this. People take the time to make these. I couldn't make that. I couldn't. I always feature them. Always feature them. So thank you very much, Luke, for your time and for your work. It is duly appreciated. Hi, John. I realize that right now has been a slow time for fast food releases. The grocery store Aldi has what I believe to be a fantastic take-and-bake pizza. Aldi is a growing national chain, and I believe that a review of this item would inform many of your viewers of a product that they otherwise may be unaware of. I appreciate your reading of the email, and I've attached a picture so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Happy reviewing. Thanks a lot from Doug. Doug, thank you. And it's from Aldi. It's their loose meat pizza. I'm sorry, the 5 cheese pizza. I apologize. 5 cheese pizza. I believe it comes with 5 cheeses on it. I would hope it would come with 5 cheeses on it, or else they lied. A 5 cheese pizza. Well, thank you for that. Let's see. Two pieces of additional fan art there from Sophie. This is from the Valentine's Day pizza review. There I am with some Valentine's Day filters, and this one's black and white. And holding a pizza. And I appreciate you for actually using a picture of me from the review where I'm not making that stupid face. So, thank you for that. It's much appreciated. Thank you for your time to make that. Not a business email, just saying. I was just wondering, why don't you get a job? You're clearly professional enough. Whatever. By the way, my friend Tim is a fanboy of yours. Well, thank you for the inquiry. YouTube actually is what I do. So that's to answer your question there. Now, YouTube doesn't make a ton of money, granted. I'm not, raking in the big bucks or anything. I'm not raking in, 60 grand a year or anything. I'm poor. I don't have any money. But I'm happy. I'm doing what I like. And I would rather have that happiness and not have a ton of money than have a couple bucks in the bank and live in misery. I know some people, they don't get it. They don't understand, and that's fine, To each his own, as I always say. But YouTube is my job, and as I said, it doesn't make a ton of money, but I do what makes me happy, and that's the most important thing. And that's what I recommend to all of you. If you can do what makes you happy, even if it doesn't rake in hundreds of thousands of dollars, if you can keep your head above water, even just barely above water, and you're able to have that happiness, good on you, and I give you a pat on the back, I do. Our next letter, regular writer, checking in. Dear John, hello, it's good to hear from you again. I'm not sure whether you have heard or not, but the eastern seaboard of Australia is grimacing in the face of a heat wave currently. Southern states lost power this week due to the sheer amount of people turning on air conditioning units, and I'm not looking forward to my energy bill this month. Hope the weather is a little cooler on your side of the planet. In response to your question last week, I forgot to mention, but the language barrier in Japan currently is not that bad. I would say that if you had to move to Tokyo for work placement, you could make it fine without knowing any Japanese. I noticed while on my trip that the most popular venues, 7-Elevens, McDonald's, etc., had employees who were fluent in English. However, the further you traveled from the main cities, the less obvious this became. I hope that was helpful for you. Just one quick question for you this week. Are you currently reading any novels? I picked up David Foster Wallace's The Pale King a few days ago. Unfortunately, it was never finished, but I enjoy his writing style so much that it doesn't matter too much to me. As always, keep up the hard work, from Liam. Thank you, Liam. And he was the individual, he wrote in the last program about his trip to Japan and sent in a few pictures of his voyage there. And I asked him about the language barrier. I said, I'd be very interested in going to Japan one day soon. And how tough is the language barrier? because I don't know any Japanese. And thank you for the answer. That helped a lot. It's good to know that in the major cities, at least, you could probably get by without knowing any. That's good to know. I bet there's some. I bet if I, in some smartphones or smart devices, I bet there's like a translation app now that you can use or something like that. But well, thank you. That's greatly appreciated. And let's see. In terms of novels, I'm not reading anything at the moment. But if you have any recommendations, anything that you really enjoyed, you can send it my way, and I'll take a look. So thank you, Liam. Let's see what else. What else there is. Hello, John. I'm sorry it's been so long since my last email. I used to email you weekly, but lately I haven't sent anything, for which I apologize. Hope everything is going well, and I hope you're taking in your recent increase in fame well. I have a question for that I was thinking about earlier. If you could review one fast food chain, snack food, or energy drink from a foreign country that's not available in America, what would it be? Also, in a broader sense, what foreign food would you like to try that isn't fast food? Thank you for years of entertainment and information, from Josh. Thank you, Josh. And I don't think it's an increase in fame whatsoever, so I think it's just the usual. If I could review one fast food chain from another country, I've gotten a few requests from this, and I really want to try it. This actually deals with Japan. A number of people now have said I should go try. This is in Japan. It's called Moss Burger, M-O-S Burger. I've just looked them up, read about them, and people have said good things about it, and I'd be very interested in trying that. I would be. So that sounds very interesting. And what foreign food would I like to try that isn't fast food? Well, I mean, that's tough. I would like to really try, the main delicacies in each country. I'd like to, say, in Italy, try some of their authentic, pasta and even artisan pizza, you name it. Just try different types of food. I don't have one specific meal, where I want to go to Haiti and try the lobster there or something. I don't have anything specific like that. I would just like to try the local, delicacies. Do a little research beforehand to the specific place and just try some local delicacies from the source. Even something perhaps that is Americanized and served as fast food here, to try it somewhere where it's more sit down and, professionally done. I think that would be very interesting to try, and you can compare the two even. And you might end up saying, wow, hey, Pizza Hut is better than this little artisan shop in Sicily in terms of pizza. I doubt you'd ever say that, but who knows. So that's just something that I'd like to do there. Alright, let's get back to business here. Yes, scene change again. Is what it is, though. Let's get this continued here. A few more letters to read, and then we'll go from there. And then I think I'll just read the statistics, and we shall wrap up this show. Hello, Report of the Week. Thanks for giving the quick rundown on the different parts of Florida and what it's like living there. Still not for sure if I'm actually going to end up trying to relocate somewhere new, but I do appreciate you giving a helpful overview. After listening to you talk about the Tree Man in a recent VORW, I thought I would recommend you a film you might like. If you haven't already seen it, it's called Elephant Man. It's about a man living in Victorian England who has severe deformities and lives to be part of a circus freak show. He's helped by a doctor. It also has John Hurt as the main character, who recently passed away. And it is a truly great film about humanity. And since you expressed a lot of interest in the story of the Tree Man, I think you would really enjoy this movie if you ever do get the chance to see it. Lastly, I have one question. I believe you asked a few shows back, or I asked a few shows back about your favorite pizza establishments, and that was some helpful information. It was also interesting that your preferred order was the same as mine. Anyway, I wanted to know what you consider to be good brands of frozen pizza that are currently out there on the market. I don't really eat frozen pizza that much, so I was looking forward to hearing what your approved brands are. Thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you for your letter. My favorite still remains Freschetta. Freschetta is good. Freschetta Rising Crust is good. And just a lot of the Freschetta pizzas are good. DiGiorno makes a few good pizzas, but there's something with their sauce. Something with their sauce that I'm just not a big fan of. I prefer Freschetta. If you ever find yourself in the supermarket and you're browsing around, you're, perusing through the aisles, you might end up coming across these novelty frozen pizza brands. You might find there's some Sasquatch pizza now. There's Screamin' Sicilian pizza. And there's other types too. These novelty frozen pizzas. They're expensive, and they just aren't as satisfying, in my opinion, as just the standard Freschetta is. And that's something to keep note of there. They're just not as satisfying. Not as satisfying. So I hope that helped. I hope that cleared a few things up, and thank you for your letter. Okay, our next letter comes from a longtime listener. He writes, "Hey John, what's up? Haven't sent a message in a while, so first let me wish you a happy 2017. I see you've been busy with a new bunch of videos I gotta catch up on. I inserted 2 separate messages, one for you and one for the channel, and I threw in a couple of screenshots on some new energy drinks, including a new Monster. And now to the energy drinks. First, Rip It Stinger Mo. This may be the most blatant Monster Energy ripoff of all time. And don't get me wrong, Monster Energy also does its fair share of ripoffs themselves, yet this one is comical. As if Rip It, who was famously known for making discount energy drinks, decided to simply funnel a standard Monster Energy right into a separate can and call it their own. All in all, this is not a bad drink, as it tastes identical to Monster down to the smell, though on a side note, or on a plus side, this drink would be highly recommended to some of your subscribers looking for a more affordable value drink. The price was $2 for $1, which was found at Big Lots, while picking up some bags of snow salt. Now on to Bang Energy. Lauren, the ever-knowing girlfriend, excitedly told me she found an energy drink that they gave her as a promotion item at the gym, Retro Fitness. She explained that it's an energy drink for girls. Upon drinking this garbage, I realized that not only was it not suited for a human, man nor woman, but should be used for nuclear warfare or as a poison. In fact, the only scoundrel I would recommend this drink to is the jerk-off who's giving you a hard time and following you around. Basically, in other words, it's, as you would say, crappy. And now on to Monster Ultraviolet. I'll keep this one short. It's a pretty good drink, yet nothing spectacular. Typical in the Monster Ultra line. If I had to compare it to anything, I'd say it's comparable to Grape Sunkissed. In any case, hope the storm didn't get you guys as bad as it got us. check the other message, as there's a pretty big franchise expo this weekend. And either way, I'll be talking to you soon, and as always, keep on punching. Well, thank you. It's great to hear from you again. I remember your emails. This guy would always give me a rundown on the latest happenings in the energy drink business. He has some connections there, and is always able to give some real interesting information and facts about that, so thank you there. I haven't done energy drink reviews in a while, admittedly. But with the 6-year anniversary coming up, I think it's only right to do a few energy drink reviews in celebration, and to kind of bring back the good old days, right? So I'm going to do a couple. And thank you for your suggestions. If I see any of those around, I mean, they sound interesting, and I'd love to give them a try, so I'll definitely keep my eyes peeled. So thank you for that. We now shall check out this inbox here. No, there's a few more here. Never mind. I'm looking for a specific person. I said to myself, I'm not gonna skip over this one. I'm not gonna miss it again. I'm not gonna do that. Because someone sent an email in the last program. They said they felt a little bit hurt by some of my comments, and they said they thought I intentionally skipped over their letter, and I said no, that wasn't directed towards you. I'm sorry if you got that impression, and I couldn't find your letter. So I searched, and there it was in the spam folder. I don't know how it got there. And I had to type it in to make sure I wanted to read this. I said, I'm not going to skip over this one by accident again. I'm going to get it taken care of. And here we are now. Hey, Review Bra. I tried sending you this message on my original account, but I had trouble with sending anyway. I hope you enjoy these arts. I made an Art Deco looking one, because in your day in a life video you chose an Art Deco tie. The other one is when I saw your beachside video and how sad it looked. I tried to create the atmosphere I was feeling from watching that video, and I hope you like it. Creating them helps, distracts, and quells the roaring loneliness I feel within. And not only that, but I also create them to let you know that I appreciate what you do, and it's a form of a thank you. I'm ecstatic that you read my last message on the VORW show, and I'm even happier that you enjoyed the art. I did when I was on the shrooms, and I'd like to make a request for the music of the VORW show. I wanted to request the song Black Water by Timber Timbre. And by the way, is there a limit to how many arts we can send you? I have quite a few, but I limit it just to 2. No, there's no limit. I know you sent them all in the other message, so I have them on file. Thank you. Thank you for the message. And these 2 pieces here, the 2 you featured in this one, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, are going to be featured in this program, yeah. The Art Deco one and the beachside. So thank you for your time, and thank you for sending them. Okay. A few more letters. Hi, John. VORW number 140 was a gem. Although YouTube was up with their tricks with no notification, I was thrilled to find it on your channel. That meant I listened a few hours after it was posted instead of immediately like usual. I loved hearing you tell the history of your channel. That's always a highlight of mine, because I've been with the channel since the beginning, and it makes me feel like a small part of that history in my own little way. Hard to believe in a week or 2 it'll be 6 years. Still remember it like yesterday. It's crazy how the time flies by. Hope all is well, and keep giving him hell, buddy. Your old pal, Brax. So thank you, Brax. Thank you for your comments and feedback. I'm glad you enjoyed the the latest VORW program, and I hope you enjoyed this one too. And I hope all is going well on your part. Thank you. Hey Review Bro, I've written in once before, about 2 weeks ago, and I must say I love the content. From food reviews to the VORW shows, I'm always entertained. As you say in the VORW show that a small percentage of your viewers listen to the very end of the program, I'm happy to say that I'm one of them. Your unique personality always puts a smile on my face, and I really do enjoy each and every video that you put out. I love the style of the videos, especially where the food reviews are all in one smooth cut, making it feel a lot smoother than having the jump cuts and transitions constantly throughout the video. I have some questions though. Do you watch other content creators' YouTube videos? And if so, who and who are your favorites? And lastly, would you consider opening a P.O. box for fan mail? I think it would be a great way to have fan art in person, to hang on a wall and whatnot, rather than just having a digital photo. Anyway, thank you for all your great content. I'll be sure to watch, as long as you're on YouTube, and I hope that you have a great day. Sincerely, Ryan. And he attached a nice photo of Yellowstone National Park. He said he found it on some Reddit some time ago, and would enjoy if I put it in the VORW. Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for sending that. It's appreciated. And, well, let's see. To answer the last question first, I haven't gotten a P.O. box yet because I'm not fully stationary, but once I'm finally able to really, settle somewhere, the idea of setting up a P.O. box has come to me. Now, I know I get all sorts of miscellaneous objects in the mail, but, it would be interesting. Well, thank you. And also, I do not watch any other YouTubers. I can't. None of that appeals to me. I mean, now, I respect everyone's personal taste, and this is my, and the key word here is my, opinion on that matter. I was looking on on YouTube, they have the trending tab. I looked through it, and it's all just trash, in my opinion. Just trash. I don't know, everyone's getting obsessed over PewDiePie again. They say 50% of the people are sitting there saying, oh, he's red-pilling the masses, he's going to be the savior, he's red-pilling everyone, and then the other half of people are saying that they can't believe what he's doing with these videos, and then actually, it's in thirds. Some people they can't believe what he's doing, and then another third of people are sitting there saying, come on, he's just joking around, and all you numbskulls are just overreacting over nothing. He does this all the time. And I only found that stuff out because I was reading the Wall Street Journal and all the newspapers, and was talking about him there. The good old pewds, I guess as they call them. And there's that. But I don't follow any of these YouTubers. I don't. I'm subscribed to, all my subscriptions are from years and years ago, and I haven't subscribed to anyone new, really, in about 4 years or so, I'm sure. I'll occasionally check it out. I am subscribed to the Associated Press, so sometimes I see their latest videos come out with news. Sometimes the White House, I'm subscribed to their channel. I've been subscribed to that, though, since 2012 when Obama was president, and sometimes I'll watch the events there to be better informed about our government. And what other? I'm subscribed to other news organizations too, CNN, NBC, you name it. Otherwise, I watch YouTube sometimes for news videos, and for music, and that's it, really. I don't watch any of the YouTubers. I just find it so overproduced and whatnot. It's no different in many cases than reality television. And if you've listened in the past, you know my views on that. So, it's just not for me. It just doesn't appeal to me. You know, where it could be with anything. You're sitting there watching TV, flipping through channels. You're sitting there listening to the good old shortwave radio here, turning the dial. You know that you come to stations of any sort that you're not a fan of. You're not going to sit there watching that usually. You know, if you're looking for an entertainment program and you come across some boring infomercial for some old, outdated exercise machine, are you going to sit there and watch that? Chances are you're just going to keep going. And that's what I'm like with these YouTube entertainment channels. It's just not for me. It just doesn't appeal to me. So that's where that stands. Thank you for writing. Let's see what else we have. Dear Reviewer, in the beginning you talk about how your mic is, and you state that it sounds like AM radio. I actually love the sound of that. Enough that I actually encode all my music available in digital format to a format that approximates low quality format, and then I re-encode the video into a more standard definition format, as I find the modern HD TV broadcasts and Blu-rays to be too sharp, if that makes any sense. No, I understand that. I wouldn't mind hearing you talk about shortwave for 3 hours, but then again, I'm extremely interested in the hobby, and have been for more than 10 years now. How do you know that all the people who watched you in the beginning have stopped watching entirely? Perhaps they stopped writing emails / leaving YouTube comments. So to interject there, that is true. And you never know. It's just usually a lot of the people in the beginning were very active, and they were people that remained active even after the channel kind of got a little bit more noticed. And then they just started stopping one by one. It wasn't, you never know. They can still be around, and I've occasionally asked if anyone from that era is still around, contact me, but only a very, very small portion ever has. As a matter of fact, now, I did misspeak in the last program. There's two people around from that very early era in the channel, and both of them wrote in to this program. They both did, so that was great to see. Still around. Anyway, continuing onward. I think I've seen the videos in which you claim you became cocky, and I've seen some of those videos and I don't really get it. I thought people were posting your videos because you were different from others, and actually wearing good clothes and speaking well. I never thought you looked ridiculous at all in your videos. And you say that if one person hadn't posted your pizza review to Reddit, then all this wouldn't have happened now. I personally would regret that, as I greatly enjoy your podcasts, reviews, lectures, and most of all the VORW show that is transmitted on shortwave. Another question, when you were listening to Radio Australia, or were you listening to Radio Australia when it went off the air, or watched a video of it going off? I found that last Waltzing Matilda to be very, very sad from my perspective. To interject, I was listening. Granted, reception was not necessarily good at my location just due to propagation. The frequencies were, they were at least above the 19 meter band, 15,240, 15,4, 15, and 17,840, very high frequencies, and it was around 7 p.m. in the winter, of course, and they just didn't propagate. But I listened to them earlier when they were still barely audible before they faded out. I listened to that, and then I went on a web receiver, one of those Kiwi SDR receivers, and I was tuning around there, and I did that for a good 6 hours. I mean, I was using these receivers in Australia, and first, for the first 3 or 4 hours or so, I was listening to the Northern Territory broadcasts, and then for the last 3 hours I was tuned to Radio Australia, and I listened to their full final hour, and I was thinking, I wonder, are they, I mean, it's such an iconic station, I wonder if they're going to do anything special to, for its demise. Are they going to have any sort of announcement? Are they going to play the interval signal? Or what? And I wasn't sure. I mean, I figure if it was up to the management, they just shut the transmitters off, but sure enough, the last minutes came and they played their old waltzing Matilda interval signal, and it was touching. It really was. I'm not gonna lie. You might say it's some stupid radio station, but yeah, it was one of my favorites, and it was so sad to see it go. So it was touching. It was. And I try to have some hope and optimism in the Australian Senate and government that they'll come to their senses and recognize this legislation and bring them back on the air. This guy, Senator Xenophon, I talked about him earlier, but his legislation is good, and I back it 100%. I mean, he doesn't just want to bring back one transmitter or anything. He wants to bring back at least 3 transmitters for the Northern Territory and 3 transmitters to the Pacific, which would fully restore their operations. And he said at least, so he theoretically gives leeway for more. But you never know. Again, I have some hope, and I just hope that it goes through. And it's just what I hope. So I did listen live, I listened live, and it was sad. But finally, let's see. I thought your pronunciation of chalupa as chaluper sounded like the way my father would pronounce it. He was born and raised in Metro Detroit, but spent his summers in Prince Edward Island among English Gaelic speakers, and in Arkansas among English and Cajun speakers. I kind of want a naked chicken chalupa myself, but I don't go out much and don't have a Taco Bell close enough to me to want to go out for it. I know you read a letter from a correspondent who had gone to the various cities in Japan, and I wonder, will we ever see what the bra thinks of Japanese food from a Japanese restaurant? Hell, I'd settle for knowing your favorite flavor and brand of instant ramen noodles. And a correspondent by the name of Mariah asks if you would review authentic Mexican food, and I too would like to hear, or rather see and hear you state your thoughts on such matters. As per your previous response, you're very much correct in how many VOA and BBC frequencies are used in Africa and Asia. However, most of them are in languages I can't understand, so unless they're music programs, they're not relevant to me. I do enjoy the English language programming of CRI, and it does sound as it's almost as informal as a college station. And as an aside, you mentioned that CRI broadcasts in Croatian, and I do miss Croatian radio. It had great music. Radio Marti tends to come in as well as it seems to do at your QTH as it does here in Metro Detroit. I'm not a Cuban, so it doesn't matter from Marti's perspective anyway. BBG Watch has run many articles on how useless Marti is anyway, and shortwave message boards have said that the Cuban jammers just mess everything up for Radio Marti across North America and Europe, even as far as Australia. Yeah, that's true. I mean, to interject one thing about the VOA, again, I mostly listen to their English programming now in that midday block. I'm getting into a habit of tuning in every day to that. But one thing that I want to find is what times their other language services play music. I know they do. I know they all kind of syndicate VOA1 at different times. I mean, when they had their Haitian service for the Hurricane Matthew, they even played, contemporary music there. I was watching a recording on YouTube. Someone was tuned into the VOA's Korean service, and they were playing some good music from the Jackson 5. That was some good music right there. I might end up playing that in my program at some point, because it's a good song. Their tune, Want You Back, it's a great one. And also on their Portuguese service, which sometimes I'll pick up on, forget the frequency, it's a higher one. They play some music too, and I just want to kind of find out these schedules so I can kind of hop around and find out when the VOA has their music programs, because I always do a good job with them, and if I ever catch one, I always enjoy it, And to conclude this letter, if you're interested in Middle Eastern cuisine, and you live in an area with a significant Middle Eastern population, you may find restaurants. Shawarma restaurants are popular where I live, Detroit. Very ethnically diverse population, high Middle Eastern population, although it would just be easier to get gyros, as it's essentially the same thing. Alternatively, tacos al pastor from a Mexican restaurant would be similar in style, but those would be made with pork, and would most definitely not be halal. To finish off, I watched your Wendy's Bacon Fries review. As someone with very long hair and cats, I would just presume any hair in my food would either be from me or them. Thank you for reading and take care. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And, okay, this is going to be the final session of recording, and we'll get that taken care of. It's actually midday right now, and I had the Voice of America going on my radio, and if you want to take a listen, here's how good it comes in every day on that frequency I said earlier.
Mandate: the United States does not intend to seize oil from Iraq, something President Trump has in the past advocated as, in his words, spoils for U.S. military activity there, and to prevent the Islamic
See, I said it came in good. 17895, 11 to 1 p.m.
Before traveling to Iraq Monday for an unannounced visit, which came on the second day of a military offensive to push the Islamic...
It's like a local AM station, it comes in good, could listen to my news. And
As his stop in Iraq has included meetings with Iraqi Prime Minister...
So there you go. Good signal and everything there. That comes along with it, so that's good. Anyway, we have a few more letters to read. I'd say this is only about 10-15 minutes worth, and that'll be it. I'm done with the show. We'll stop, and we'll get it up for you all. How does that sound? Okay. Our next letter. Dear John, thank you so much for reading my letter way back in January. To be honest, it feels like it was yesterday. Oh, time is scary. I hope you're doing well, and I decided to write you again now that I have some things to say and ask. This is going to be a long letter, so please bear with me, and I've already saved up a few questions for the next show, otherwise this will of course turn into an essay. I was listening to your older VORWs, and you said that you would like to live in Europe, and maybe the UK, but the key word was somewhere scenic. And what is scenic for you? And what would you like to see there? I've always dreamed about living by a lake with mountains and trees surrounding me. Just me and the nature. I've had this image in my head for so many years, but then I snap out of it because I don't know how to drive. I am not Bear Grylls, and I have no interest in waking up to, quote, survive each day. But even if I did drive, people say that I'm too young for such a lifestyle, and I would go crazy there. And maybe I would eventually, but I would be happy at least. And I think in order to be truly happy, you need to find some sort of stability that you're comfortable with. And another question for you, do you prefer lakes or oceans? Maybe rivers? I find seas and oceans scary, just seeing how powerful water element is, and the concept of infinity makes me anxious too. That's why I'd choose a lake anytime. It makes me feel safe because I can see the end of it. to interject. Number one, in terms of what my definition of scenic is, granted, it's oftentimes the same image that I might picture, somewhere very pretty, has some mountains, a good view, somewhere perhaps elevated somewhat, so you can kind of theoretically look out the window each day and kind of get lost in the view. But at the same time, I realized the issue with it all is to get a view like that and to get in a situation like that and to not be in the wilderness, you need to have a lot of money. That would, usually something like that would cost quite a lot of money, which obviously I don't have. I haven't won the lottery just yet, and I'm no outdoorsman either. You can still get that kind of view by going and blowing a ton of money at some hotel in a nice place, but again, you can't realistically live there. But a nice scenic area, kind of like that. And in terms of lakes / rivers versus the ocean, well, I'm definitely not a fan of really swimming in either. The ocean is very, very powerful, and perhaps when it's nice and fairly calm, it can be nice. I mean, no matter what, I like walking up and down the beach sometimes when no one's there, and I can listen to the radio, and I'll be able to hear the radio stations coming in very, very clearly, because they just bounce right over the ocean, and they this is the first land they hit, so it comes in very good. But what's always most soothing, of course, is lakes. Again, they can be so serene, so calm, so placid, and very nice. The one thing that fascinates me about the oceans are rogue waves. I'm sure you've heard of those. It's the natural phenomenon in which you can have a wave that will occur that's usually 3 to 5 times higher than any other waves around it. So say, you have some choppy seas and the waves are, 15 feet. All of a sudden you can have this wave come in at 70 feet, towering over everything else, and, lots of ships are sunk from those. And it's a very rare phenomenon, very rarely photographed or videotaped, but you can find a few, and those are very, very interesting. They fascinate me, but I would never want to see one of those personally. I never, ever would. It's a terrifying thing, but it still fascinates me nonetheless. And the letter continues, speaking of studying, I would like to share that I have successfully handed in my dissertation. No more essays for me anymore, apart from writing letters like these. And last week I wrote to a pen pal, and it was 17 pages long, and there's nothing wrong with that. And another thing I'd like to say, I finally was able to try Five Guys, and their burgers are some of the best that I've ever had. Are they still your favorite? And thank you for the advice and about the surveys from Pizza Hut, getting a whole pizza for free. How good is that? So thank you for your wisdom. I have some other questions to ask, but I'll leave it here. Until next time, take care. And thank you for writing. Thank you for your letter. And there was a time earlier in 2016, mid-2016, you can check a VORW program probably from around then, where I had a Steak and Shake nearby, and it was very, very good. And I said, Steak and Shake is my new favorite burger place now. And Steak and Shake still is very, very good, extremely enjoyable. My biggest complaint, because I had a bad experience with Five Guys a while back, and I haven't really gone there since. I spent $25 on 2 burgers, and that price, it better be gourmet quality, And the quality was just terrible quality, and I threw away some good money there on that, and it kind of left me with a bad taste in my mouth about Five Guys ever since. But one day I'll go back. I'll try. I was thinking about going to Five Guys yesterday, but I didn't. And we'll see. One day soon I'll give it another go and perhaps make some corrections. But Steak and Shake, fairly common chain in parts of the U.S. They are very good. Very good. If you ever get the chance to try Steak and Shake, anyone listening, I recommend it. And they're pretty good still, and they're, you know, they're affordable. They're pretty affordable. They are. Let's see if I don't think there's any other messages here. Let's check. Make sure nothing got in the spam by accident, but there's nothing there. Okay. So next, let's check the YouTube inbox, and let's see what we have here. The dead YouTube inbox. You know. Let's see. What do we have? What do we have? Nothing in the spam folder on YouTube. Okay. Anything in this folder? Nothing there. Oh, just a few. Okay, here's this one here. Hi, brah. A friend introduced me to your channel last year, and I've been a fan ever since. I think that you have said that you walk in your suits, and I was wondering what kind of shoes you wear. I recently started a walking regimen to lose weight, and I got a pair of Nike Frees, and they are excellent. And I got them at a Ross Dress for Less store, so they were affordable. To interject, well, it all depends. All depends on what I'm doing. Sometimes I mean, I have a few pairs of shoes. I have one pair of black, solid, you know, black Reebok sneakers that I kind of wear if I'm, you know, trudging out, you know, and walking around for a while. But sometimes when I'm out and about in a more crowded public area, I still just wear dress shoes. You know, I have a few pairs. I have, let me think now. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 7 pairs of dress shoes, so I can rotate through them all. You know, two very shiny patent leather pairs. Then 2 pairs of these standard black leather Oxfords. Those are the ones that I wear most of the time now. I'm wearing those right now. 2 pairs of more informal square toe shoes. I don't wear them that often, but those would be good for walking. And then 1 pair of, you know, men's dress boots. And I mean, some people think when you use the word boot, you think it's like a military one that goes up to your knee, but it's a lot shorter than that. You know, it goes up to like the, I don't know what, you know, a little bit higher than a shoe, but not too much. And I'll wear those usually if I'm wearing like a wing collar or my frock coat or something. But no, when I'm out and about, I'll wear dress shoes when I walk around. I just feel too out of place wearing sneakers with dress pants. I can't do it. Sometimes I will for the sake of my shoes. I also have a pair of rubber overshoes. You don't see that anymore, but sometimes if there's inclement weather and I still want to wear the dress shoes, it's these little rubber coverings that you can put over the shoes. You can kind of slip them in, and you can walk around with these little rubber things over your shoes, and protects them very nicely from the elements. And I've made good use of those, especially when I was up north during the winter. You know, you have the salt on the sidewalks and whatnot during the snow, and that could really destroy the shoes. So that's what I would do there. The letter continues. I also frequent thrift stores and get nearly all my clothing from them. I worked in a thrift store for a while, and some people would buy suits in our store just to wear them for court appearances. I'm also planning to get myself a shortwave radio just to listen to your broadcasts. Interjecting, thank you. And if you want a shortwave radio, remember, wherever you may be, if you're in North America, frequency 7490, Europe, frequency 6070, Northeastern U.S., 5150, and maybe if you're in Australia now, if you're in New South Wales, you might be able to tune to 3210. and you might be able to listen to the VORW there, but that's still in the planning stages. I'm talking to the guy from the station there. And there's plenty of good shortwave radios you can find. There's plenty. As long as it can receive the shortwave band, it's worth a try, really. And finally, I work at a homeless shelter overnight, and I keep very odd hours, as you do. I hate being awake before noon. If you're ever in Alabama, I hope you will review the chain restaurant called Jack's. They serve breakfast, fried chicken, ice cream, iced coffee, and delicious chicken tenders. The fries are crinkle cut, and they put a sort of orange powder or salt on them that makes them very unique. The ranch sauce is very good and made there at the restaurant. Thank you for continuing to make your videos, and I hope you are well. Thank you for that. And Jack's. If I ever find myself, I'll review Jack's. And I'm pretty tempted to try those fries and their chicken tenders. Actually, that'd be a good combination, right? Some chicken tenders and a side of their fries. Thank you. And if you do acquire a shortwave radio, feel free to write in about the program. Let me know how it was received over there. And even if you don't have a radio, there's many ways you can tune in still, and I look forward to your feedback about the program if you listen. Thank you. Hey Review Bro, I was watching a Pizza Hut Big Flavor Dipper video, and you mentioned poltergeist activity in it, where you hear a large bang and get startled. Do you believe in ghosts? And do you think there are ghosts where you lived? I've definitely had my fair share of supernatural experiences and was curious to ask. Thank you. Thank you for writing. I've never had a paranormal activity myself. My family used to go around to all these historic, supernatural sites, haunted hotels, haunted forts, you name it. Ghost tours, ghost hunting, staying in a haunted room. They said they saw things I never did. I never did. So I can't say I've ever seen a ghost. I'll believe it when I see it, though. I always stay open-minded, just like if I'm sitting here recording and I see a Sasquatch walking through the yard, I'll be convinced that they exist 100% now. Same thing, if I see something truly inexplicable that I cannot, cite to any other source or occurrence, I'm open to thinking about that. But at present, I've never had any sort of experience. I never have. A lot of course, things that deal with the paranormal are sensationalized and commercialized in order for Hollywood producers to make some money off of people's fears. That's the industry today, of course. I mean, you look at the Travel Channel, you look at Destination America, Sci-Fi, so many paranormal shows. Ghost Hunters, Ghost Asylum, Ghost this, Ghost that, Haunting in this, But hey, it's money, right? But as I said, I'm open-minded, and if I ever have an experience, I'll believe it. On to the next. Hello, Review Bra. How you doing? I hope you're doing fine, and we'll continue on with the series. And this is the first time writing in, and I decided to write in with the YouTube messaging system because I figure I try to keep the YouTube inbox alive. Similar to how you try to keep the shortwave radio alive, regardless of its dwindling popularity. You might have seen a few of my comments floating around the videos, usually compliments, so I don't have much to say, but I have a few questions. Care to answer? Of course. I'm thinking about becoming a regular writer. How do you feel about that? Go for it. Right away. Doesn't bother me at all. You know where to send the messages, so there's nothing to prohibit you from doing that. That's fine. Write regularly. 2, how do you feel about crying? Nothing wrong with that. There's let's see. If the situation warrants it, there's nothing wrong with being emotional. Nothing wrong with that at all. You know? Nothing at all. I'm not one of those people that says, oh, don't cry, don't... If you gotta cry, cry. Doesn't matter what age you are, what gender you are, who you are. If you gotta cry, just do it. Well, you know, you'll feel a lot better sometimes after a good cry. It helps. It does, it helps. So don't hesitate. Nothing wrong with that. And, let's see what else we have here. Next letter reads, hello, Review Brother. I must say it's a privilege to be one of the last remaining YouTube messengers. I will try to continue to stay diligent and faithful in my correspondence with you, and I have a couple quick questions for you. Have you ever visited an aquarium? What about a zoo? How do you like it? Also, I have a hypothetical question for you. If you had to choose to only be able to use one of the following two websites for the rest of your life, which would it be? Reddit or 4chan? Keep in mind that you would still be able to use your own subreddit regardless of your choice, as well as being able to use other websites on the internet. Well, first and foremost, to answer your first question, I've been to an aquarium and a zoo. An aquarium, most recently, was when I was at Epcot in Disney. They have their ride, The Seas, and it's a pathetic excuse for an educational ride. You sit in this little chair and you go around, and I don't know, the Finding Nemo characters just bounce around on some screen. But the fun thing is, at the end of the ride, it lets you out into this place where there's this huge aquarium, and you can look around at all the fishies swimming around. And that's very, very fun. Very fun to look at them all. And zoos, I haven't been to a zoo in a very long time. But an aquarium, I've been to recently, and the fish there, they looked happy. They're very well taken care of. Massive, massive, very, very large tank that they're situated in. And they seemed happy, the fish did. They seemed well fed, and they had lots of little places to hide. And if you ever see it, you know it's just a tremendous tank, and that, again, they seem content. And, oh, the answer there is Reddit, of course. Back in the day, I used to browse the 4chan website, but, you know, it's just, no offense to anyone that uses it, but just for me, it's just not good for the mind, in my opinion. Again, nothing wrong with, you know, wrong with many of the people that use the site, but it's just, you know, I've moved on from it, I guess you can say. And let's see, was there any other questions that you asked? No, okay. Well, I believe, therefore, that wraps up this program. Do remember, of course, that if your letter was not read, please resend it, let me know. Writing in is purely voluntary, and I cannot guarantee that your letter will be read in any program, so please keep that in mind. Remember to catch the VORW Radio Program every Thursday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. GMT, 6070 to Europe. 3 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. GMT, 6070 to Europe. 8 p.m. Eastern, 1 a.m. GMT, 7490 to North America. You could also catch relays throughout the day on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on 5150 kilohertz to New York City and the tri-state area. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we will now report the statistics for the latest VORW program. I believe VORW number 140. So let's make sure that that is the correct one. Indeed it is. Let's take a look at the retention here. Let's take a look at this and let's see what we got. Here we go. Okay. According to the YouTube statistics, by 30 seconds in, 84% of people were watching it. By 1 minute and 7 seconds, 39% were watching it. By 3 minutes, 30% were watching it. By 24 minutes, 25% of individuals were watching the video. By 35 minutes, 24% were still watching. By 1 hour, 1 minute, 25% were watching, so it seems to have leveled off at around 25% of people viewing the program at this time. By 1 hour, 23 minutes, 20% was still watching. 1 hour, 42 minutes, 18% was still watching. And by 1 hour, 51 minutes, 7 seconds, 16%. So now you can call yourselves the 16%ers who made it to the very end. So congratulations, you win. Anyway, the countries with the highest view duration. Here's the top 3 right now. Thailand. Thailand has the highest this time around, with a average view duration of 1 hour, 41 minutes, and 35 seconds. So congratulations, Thailand. You have a good radio station, too. HSK9, Radio Thailand World Service. Good shortwave station, good English program. Guatemala, 1 hour, 26 minutes, 35 seconds as the average. And Latvia in third, average view duration of 1 hour, 16 minutes, and 18 seconds. So, congratulations to all of you. You win nothing. And the countries with the lowest view duration were Macedonia, with 0 minutes, 0 seconds. So they clicked on it and immediately clicked away. I guess it was a misclick. Tunisia, with someone from Tunisia listened for 2 seconds. Someone from Bosnia and Herzegovina, 4 seconds. And Hungary, Lebanon, Belarus, and Colombia all at 7 seconds. So there you go. Glad you were able to stick around so long, folks. No, it doesn't matter. They could watch as long as they want, or as short as they want. Doesn't matter to me any. That's all that I have for you, ladies and gentlemen. This is VORW, the voice of the report of the week. I hope you have a great week. I'm going to shut up now, and I'll get to uploading this. VORW program number 140 concluded. Number 141 concluded. Ooh, almost screwed up there. It's 141.